Now, when I talk about some of the changes to that Jaguars staff, they've added some coaches that came from the collegiate level. Now, it doesn't always connect the dots just right, but let's at least see a few of the names that would make sense because now they know these guys personally. Let's start with Matt House. He was the defensive coordinator for LSU last year, a guy that would make sense that he'd know very well. Mason Smith. Now, Mason Smith is maybe not a name that you know. He's a former 5-star recruit, had a fantastic year as a freshman, made the All-SEC freshman team, but then he kind of fell off. That freshman season ended with a shoulder injury. Then his sophomore season ended with an ACL. Last season, he was finally back out on the field. Maybe not the production that he was hoping for in his final season with LSU, but there is a ton of untapped potential with this guy. He's a guy that could be had late in the draft on that defensive line, and if it hits, you could have a star on your hands because he is a big fella with tons of athletic potential, and nobody's going to know him better than his former defensive coordinator in Matt House. All right, let's go to that next guy on that Jaguars staff with some college connections. How about Jerry Mack, the Jaguars' new running back coach? If the Jaguars wanted another running back, I don't know that they do, but if they wanted to add a guy, Jaylen Wright could make a whole lot of sense. He was a high school track star, so you already know what that means. He's fast, and he made it show up out on the football field. He was a big play runner. Last season, he had over 1,000-yard rushing. He hasn't had a whole lot of pass-catching opportunities in college, but he's shown that he can pass block when asked to. So Jaylen Wright would make a whole lot of sense for the Jaguars if they decided to go that direction. Let's stay up on Rocky Top because the Jaguars added 2 folks from that Tennessee staff. How about Corey Robinson, who joined the Jaguars as the cornerback coach? He was a defensive analyst up there in Knoxville, so I'd say he might know the DBs pretty well. At least we hope. How about Kamal Hayden? He's a guy who started having a fantastic 23 season. He only played 7 games, had 3 interceptions, got a little bit better each season of college football. Last season was cut short for him by a shoulder injury. They're going to have to check that out in Indianapolis at the Combine. But he has the size to be an outside corner in the NFL. And if the pieces come together, you could get a star on your hands maybe for a little bit of a steal because of that injury, and nobody's going to know him better than a guy that probably worked with him up there on Rocky Top during his time in college. Kamal Hayden, definitely a name that has some dots connected. Maybe there's some smoke where there's where there's smoke, there's fire. We could see if this one all comes together. Now, one last guy on that Jaguars staff coming from the college level, that is Jeremy Garrett. Now, he was the defensive line coach at Auburn, so, of course, there's an Auburn defensive lineman that we want to check out. It's Marcus Harris. Now, he's a defensive tackle by trade, but he has moved all around that defensive line for the Auburn Tigers, up and down it. He is a little bit undersized to be an interior defensive lineman, but he was hyper-productive in college just last season, 7 sacks. And if you've been watching the Jaguars, you know they could use a little bit of an interior pass rush boost. This is the kind of guy that could give it to him. Now, he's a name that's worth watching. He is in Indianapolis for the Combine. A big week showing off some strength could help his case a lot. But Marcus Harris is definitely a guy that would make a whole lot of sense later on in the draft because there are some connections to that Jaguars staff.